Well, today's been a really good day for Oklahoma State University and Oklahoma State football. We were able to sign a really balanced class, with the exception of a couple of positions that we have a number of young players on our team that we feel like will develop, and we'll pick up those positions next year. We obviously had tremendous success in the state of Texas. We were able to pick up a couple players in the Atlanta area again. Felt like that we addressed some needs at positions with some two-year players that should be a little more mature, a little more physical, and give us a chance to help out at those positions right away. As it says in the release, I would like to thank our staff, recruiting office, media, the young ladies that help us in recruiting that are students here, and our players who have been our best recruiters, our current players. They love being part of Oklahoma State football, and they were the biggest recruiters throughout the recruiting season. Also wanted to thank Coach Holder for allowing us private air use. We have a number of donors and Oklahoma State supporters that donate private planes and allow us to get from one city to another, and without everybody pulling in the same direction, without the use of airplanes, it'd be difficult to put a class together like this. So it's a good day for Oklahoma State football, as I said earlier. Looking forward to getting these guys in here this summer and let them get started being a part of our team.
Mike, you mentioned that planes. How is that different than what you've had in the past?
Well, over the last few years, we've been very fortunate that we've had, for the most part, just about everything we needed in private plane use. And as you know, it's the economy and recession and everything that we've gone through in this country, and even the state of Oklahoma, it's not easy to just come up with private air. But Coach Holder understands the importance of getting from one place to the other, and we've been fortunate. We've got a number of people that are Oklahoma State supporters that still continue to allow us. And so over the years, when it's been more difficult to find funds for recruiting, they've been able to keep up with everybody else, and gives us a chance to get from one place to the other.
Is it made more difficult considering the tragedy that happened 15 months ago? You got just in terms of checking on everything and all those kinds of things?
I'm probably speaking out of place here because I don't know the details of it, but there's stipulations and things in place that we go through, and we certainly make sure that we're traveling on planes that are serviced and everything that they need to go through to be up to par. Other than that, I really don't have all the answers to the details. But for us, my point in thanking them was it's not easy to just come up with planes, and they're expensive to fly, and they've allowed us to do that, which has made a huge impact in our recruiting.
One of the two receivers who are very highly regarded with stars and all that stuff. To what degree is your wide receiver reputation with good receivers in the NFL lately paying off for you? Did it pay off with those guys?
Well, no question. We're able to attract wide receivers from a much larger area than we do some of the other positions, and we have a number of young men that show a lot of interest in us. And at some point, in the end, it can work against you a little bit because somebody may say, I don't know if I want to go there. You already got 12, 15 guys that can play. So for the most part, it works for us. And there's a little part of it that scares some guys away in the end.
What are the two guys that you guys say, what do they bring?
Well, one of them is 6'4", and he gives us a lot. Very athletic, very physical. He's 190 now. I think he was 193 when I was down there a couple weeks ago. So he's going to play at 210. He's every bit of 6'4". He may be taller than that. Marcel. And then Samples is not as tall, but he's really fast, and he's got great side-to-side movement, and will be a really good outside receiver for us. His body type is a lot like Josh Stewart's, but he brings enough to the table where he plays on the outside for us. But both those guys will fit in and have an opportunity to play in the first game.
Would Dawson Bassett be considered in that group maybe, or have you decided to put side of the ball he's going to play on?
He'll be a defensive player.
How unique is it to lose one brother when you gain the other that has a Bassett family? What does it mean to them and you?
Well, Dawson has earned everything that he's gotten up to this point. And I said on the radio earlier this morning that he was a little bit of a tweener for us because the position that we needed him at and the positions that he played, we weren't necessarily going to take them in this class. So from a talent standpoint and his attitude and his love of the game, we would have taken him months ago, but we really didn't need and weren't sure we were going to take what would be an outside linebacker because we have so many young players at that position. And then we were able to find a way to get him in our class. And he's going to be, well, he's already 6'4". I think he'll be 245, 250 pounds in maybe 18 months. And he's more active side to side than his brother. Cooper's a little bigger, but if he's anything in any kind of a player and have the loyalty that his brother did, that Cooper had for our program, he's a great take for us. So from a talent standpoint, we liked him from day one. We just didn't know that he fit in this class, and unfortunately sometimes that happens, but we're thrilled that he's a part. Got a great family and great Oklahoma State people.
Mike, you were talking about Dawson there, and two kind of hidden themes that continue in your recruiting. Brothers, because I mean, you had the Woods, the Koenigs, now Curry, Bassett, and coaches' sons. Because you mentioned Samples, his dad, and Curry's dad. I mean, those are two kind of underlying themes with you.
For the most part, if you grow up in a coaching family, you have a good chance to have a feel for what it's like, the everyday environment of athletics and the pressure and the challenges involved. And we've been very fortunate that we've had some brothers that have come through here that have done very well. But that's a sign that we're handling them the correct way, and they're happy here at Oklahoma State. Because if they weren't, their brothers wouldn't come. And we've been very fortunate because the guys that are coming through here are good players. Their brothers were good players. And I said this a year or two ago that I feel like Oklahoma State's starting to build a football tradition. And that's the foundation of where it starts. The former players, they have to come back. They have to be a part of our alumni weekend. If you've noticed, we've had a number of our players that have been here since I've been the head coach that come back on their open weekends in the NFL, and they're on the sidelines. And they do that on their own. And they come, they want to be here, they want to be on the sideline, they want to be a part of our team. So we're starting to build some of that tradition that over years and years and years will begin to pay off for your football program.
Because of what you lost at the kicker with Quinn Sharp and running back with Joseph Randall, it looked pretty obvious that you needed to bring in some bodies at those positions. Can you talk about the guys you are bringing in at kicker and running back?
Well, we brought Grogan in as our kicker, and we feel really good about his future. I will have to say that, when I watch tape on these players with him, if it goes down between the field goals, then he's good. If not, then we move to the next guy. And he kicked a lot of them that went between the goalpost, and he has a strong leg. He has the capability of kicking a 50-yarder right now. So his work habits are really good. Special team players at our level, snappers, punters, holders, kickers, have to be willing to do it on their own because we have people that are responsible for them. But the number of teams at our level that have kicking coaches or punting coaches like they do in the NFL would be very minimal. And so they have to have great work habits. And we think that he's a guy that's willing to work really hard to make himself a better player. And then at the running back position, we were just going to take one. And we had Webster for months committed to us. And Jamal Singleton did a really nice job of communicating with others in recruiting, which is hard to do. It's hard to stay in touch with them and get them to really buy into what you're trying to tell them when you haven't offered them a scholarship. But we didn't really have that slot until Joseph made himself available for the draft. Then we were able to pick up Rennie, which we liked him from the start. But Webster committed first, and we didn't have the extra position or the extra scholarship. And so we're excited about both of them. We think they fit our style of play. We've been very successful on offense with those type of running backs.
I was trying to make the numbers balance out. We were never cut short. What was a need on defense that you had to bring in?
We need defensive linemen and ends. And this will be the best class that we've brought in since I've been the head coach here.
In terms of that position or overall?
Well, I think this is the best class. I really do. But as far as defensive line position, this will be the best group that we've had because we have some meat in it. We got guys that come in that are big and physical as we speak, and then they get 6 months, 12 months, 18 months with Coach Glass, and we have some guys that are on the edge that have some height and some range. We brought in Sam Wren, who's a 2-year guy, and he's not as tall, but he's real explosive. And we needed some help at the end position because we lost those other 3 guys. But this is, I'll be very surprised if 18 months from now that we all don't agree that this is the best group of defensive linemen that we've signed since I've been the head coach here.
And obviously, with 3 quarterbacks, you started last year. Quarterback was not a need in this class.
That's correct. We'll pick one up next year.
How about the defensive tackle you got today? I mean, that's probably the one surprise of the day.
Ofa?
Yeah.
We felt like Ofa was on board with this for quite a while. He has a very close, strong family in Salt Lake City. There's 5 of the brothers. Either he's the 6th or there's 5 total, I'm not for sure, and they're all 300-pounders, so they all look the same to me. But close family. He's got a sister that's 16, 17, I believe, and mom and dad and uncles. There's a real close community there. So our only concern is whether sometimes in the end those guys get a little concerned and may not travel away from home. When he visited here a couple weeks ago, he was convinced that this was the best school for him. And it was just a matter now of him kind of breaking away for a couple years away from home. But he's a very physical, strong body to put inside, and has really good lateral movement, and his motor runs really well. Great personality, and will bring a lot to our team.
I was also on defensive backs too. I mean, is it hard to recruit defensive backs with all the pass-heavy offenses they're going to see in the Big 12?
Not really. That means you got to recruit good ones. I think that what's different in recruiting than it was 4 or 5 years ago is we feel like that the cornerbacks have to be bigger than what we used to be able to play with for 2 reasons. One, because of the style of spread offenses that are in this league. They're getting them singled up on the weak side, and they're running the tailback over there, and they're pounding on them. And then 2, the receivers that we're playing against are bigger now. And you guys have been watching college football for a long time. There used to be a number of guys out there playing that were 5'10" and 5'11" and 6 foot and 175 pounds. Well, the receivers we're playing against now and the ones that we play with here, they could be 6'2", 6'3", 215 pounds. And so those little corners are having a hard time. So we tried to beef up that position. And then at the safety position, it's really unique because that used to be a run support position. And now offenses have plans to isolate safeties on a number 2 or number 3 receiver. If you want to play any pressure at all and blitz and place a man, then you could be covering Josh Stewart or Justin Blackman as a number 2 or 3 receiver, or even Crabtree, in the Super Bowl, he played an inside receiver at this level, and that's who the safety could be covering. So they have to not only be physical, but they have to be agile enough to be able to cover good receivers inside.
Mike, year in, year out, your recruiting classes aren't really ranked that high nationally yet. You guys are one of the winningest programs over the last 4 or 5 years. What are you guys seeing that these recruiting experts aren't?
Well, I think that we do a really good job when we get them here, and I did mention this on the radio, and it's interesting with technology and the level of communication that's out there now. How much is out there that's not true in recruiting, and I'm not very sound with Twitter and Facebook and all those things, so I'm not smart enough to figure it out. I'm not sure I want to, but there's so much information out there. We see information that, well, let me back up. We have people that track all that, and then they'll give us the information because we're just like you guys. We got to check it out, even though we know most of it's probably fabricated. We still have to look at it and see what's out there. So we have people work in our building, and they check all that. And it's interesting to me that there's actually high school coaches that do it, and they're putting information out there on Twitter on their own recruits, which is amazing to me, but either way, that's kind of the way it is. So my point is that we try to get young men that fit our system, that have some values and want to be a part of our team, and that football is really important to them. And each year, we'll come across 3 or 4 guys that are really talented, and in our opinion, we don't feel like that they'll be a team player, or they won't fit Stillwater, or they won't fit what we need here, and so we'll pass on them. Now, there's a lot of players that pass on Oklahoma State, don't get me wrong. Sometimes we see young men that somebody doesn't have rated very high, and we could throw the names out of here all day. I think Blackman was a 2-star. He may have been a 3 or 2-star. Kendall Hunter came down to us in TCU. Blackman was us in Iowa State and Missouri. Pettigrew was us and one other school. The list goes on and on. Zach Robinson was us, and I think maybe Kansas State got into it late. But we have to decide whether they'll buy into our program, and then they fit their needs here. And what I mean by that is, if you just go take a running back that may be a really good player in somebody's eyes, but he doesn't fit our system, and he's not successful here and not happy, then that didn't work. Even though he may be really good, but if he doesn't fit what we're looking for, it doesn't help us. And then in return, it doesn't help him. And then he won't be a good recruiter for us, and then so it's not a good mesh. So what we do is try to find the right guys that fit our system so they'll be happy here, because there's 133 of them on our team. And the attitude and body language is so important. And somebody may not think they're as good as what we do, but we feel like that we make them better. And I've said this for a few years, and I'm not just trying to blow us up or pump my own tires up. We take a 2-star and make them a 3, and a 3 and make them a 4, and a 4 and make them a 5. And we really believe that, and that's what we do.
Man, Pat Jones complimented you on this, and that if you think you can sign an Oklahoma high school kid who will help you, you will. But you're not going to take an Oklahoma kid just for the sake of having Oklahoma kids.
Yeah, see, we took one this year, and that really bothers me. Now, we offered a number of them. We didn't get them. But I think it's important that the people in Oklahoma know that if there's a player that we think in any case can help us, we're going to offer him. Because we want to take care of all the Oklahoma people, and then we're going to take care of Texas, because that's where we make all of our money. But we offered a number of players this year, and we didn't get them. So what we do is we don't fall back on players. Or let me back up. We have fallen back on players, whether it was Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Arkansas, or we have fallen back on players late in the recruiting game. Like if you have one jump ship on you, we just go out there and grab one. It doesn't work, because we shouldn't have been on that guy in the first place, or we would have been on him. So what he's referring to is there's pressure at times to try to fill a roster on signing day, or take guys that are close just because you think you have to make certain people happy. And there is no perfect world there. But the one thing that we started years ago, and I think it's been good for us, is if there's anybody close to here that can play and fits our system, we're going to offer them. We may not get them, but we're going to move forward on them because, in my opinion, a geographical tie to a university and a football team makes them a better player. I mean, if you just parachute me out in the state of Washington, I'm probably not going to feel as comfortable as if you drop me over here somewhere on the other side of Tulsa. Well, it's the same for kids. And so we try to get them as close as possible unless there's a tie to get them here from a little further away. And that's really why we don't recruit national around here, because we've had so much success with players that are within a 5, 6, 7 hour drive of our school.
Why do you think it didn't have the great success offering the Oklahoma kids? I mean, your program's successful, better than it's ever been. Why?
I mean, Barry, honestly, and I probably shouldn't say this, I make Kevin nervous when I do this, but we're building tradition here in football, but it's not been built. We're not sitting here on 50 years or 25 years of tradition here in football. So it takes some time to make up that ground. And you guys know this. We've won 49 games in 5 years. So it's not like we haven't won as many games as anybody that's around this place. But at times, if we don't get them for whatever reason, then we've got to go elsewhere and get what satisfies our needs, and then we go back and battle again. In 14, the 14 class, I don't know if it's legal to say this or not, but I probably better not because it's probably not legal. But anyway, I should say legally I can say this. Within a 3-hour drive of where we're at right now, it's going to be a really good class. So we're excited about that because that makes it easier on us.
Coach, you mentioned technology. Since you've been a head coach, how different does recruiting look? Not with just technology, but with everything.
Yeah, it's kind of a nightmare for us because there's a certain part of things that we all do, whether it's recruiting or our everyday life or our jobs, that you would like to be able to share information and have a conversation and it just be between two people. Well, that doesn't really happen anymore, and especially in recruiting. There's if there's 100 recruiting services out there, there's only about 2 or 3 of them that are really legitimate, in my opinion. And those are the ones that most of us follow. Okay, you've got Scout and you've got Rivals that do a really good job and have fairly accurate information and actually talk to the young men, and so they have a legitimate reason to put something online or print it. Then you have about 98 other people that are just somebody.com, and whether you like it or not, most of their information is not true, and it can cause issues, and it's kind of a pain in the rear, but it's not ever going away. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, there's not anybody in this room that doesn't have their phone in their pocket right now. So.
While we got you here, are you close to an offensive coordinator, or do you have a timetable to pick one?
I'd hope to have one in place by 1st March. Quicker would be better. And the truth of the matter is I've only talked to 2 people, and that was just because I had the time and I bumped into them. All of us are extremely busy at this time of year. As soon as the bowl game's over, we have 2 or 3 days. And during that time, I spend with my family. And then once we get back into recruiting, I mean, I'm one city to the other, and I'm in a school and in a car and in a home. And so for me to legitimately have a good conversation and do the right thing is difficult. But I have had a couple conversations with some guys that I have interest in, and but now it just comes to whether they have really interest in us, and then we've got to work through all the details. And I said March 1st. I don't know what this is, a 6th or something like that. Should be a lot quicker than that. I would think, I don't know, within a week or 10 days, or maybe even quicker, just depending on how fast some of it. I need to return a couple calls here later and see where I'm at on it.
I'm going to guess you don't want to identify the 2 guys you've talked to.
No, not right now. And for them also, because they've got a job to do and they have things going on, and I don't really care to keep it all secret. I just mainly for them.
Have you checked Danielle's phone log just to see, because I'm gonna guess, besides you seeking, there are others that are applying.
We've had a number of people call in, and but one thing that I've done, Robert, and you're obviously very close to the program, is that they all know I'm not going to return any phone calls because, one, I don't have time to do it. Two, I don't have enough juice on my phone to return that many calls. And three, if you ever start returning them, then it just brings more in. So to be fair to everybody, I don't start that process, and then they all know, and it kind of fades away after about a week.
What have you told your recruits that want to know when they ask what about what's the coordinator status? What do you tell them?
They ask that just like you asked it, and I said that this is the third time really that we've run into this situation over the last like 6 years or something after Larry left. One being me, and then Dana, and then Todd. So it's really the fourth time. But that one thing is true is that our offensive philosophy has not changed. We're going to be spread, and we're going to run it, and we're going to throw it, and we're going to play fast, and we're going to be aggressive. And we'll find somebody that can coach quarterbacks and call plays that'll run our system because we feel good about it. And fortunately for me, it's happened so many times in the last few years that they believe that. I really worried about that 4 years ago because they weren't sure. You can say it, but there's no proof. Well, there's proof now that we're going to run the same style of play, and we're going to run the same offense. It's just a matter of who's doing it. It'll vary a little bit every year based on who the quarterbacks are, who the receivers are, and who the running backs are.
Because it came on the fly, you really didn't have a chance to have any kind of press conference or say anything. Talk about your confidence in going forward with Glenn Spencer.
Yeah, Glenn has been a really good addition for us and quality worker, and has got great defensive skills, and I'm looking forward to watching him work. And Joe Bob's with us now, and then obviously on offense is Jason, but defensively I'm excited about bringing Joe Bob in, and those guys will get in that room and work hard, and we're gonna make some adjustments on that side of the ball. And we're going to make some adjustments in recruiting on that side of the ball, which we already have. From a number standpoint, to try to get a little better on defense each year. But I'm excited what he brings to the table. A lot of enthusiasm, and between him and the other three guys in that room, it'll be very important for them to get to work after they have a break here for a few days and try to find a way to slow people down.
Is it fair to say this because of the added defensive line emphasis, the bigger defensive backs? I mean, it almost seems like, the SEC's had that defensive reputation, the Big 12's had the offensive reputation, that you're kind of going for SEC-type defensive personnel?
Somewhat, but not really. The SEC's going to some spread too.
Yeah.
Compared to where they were at 2 and 3 years ago, if you look at what style of play that you're getting in the SEC now, and even into the NFL, you're seeing more of what we do. So I think it's changing. I think 5 years from now, you're going to see the SEC is heavy offensively like what the Big 12 is. I don't think anybody wants to admit that, but it's slowly but surely happening. Just look at what's happened at your you saw it at Ole Miss this year, and now Tennessee is, I'm guessing, going to do that because that's what they've done at Cincinnati, and Florida's doing it kind of. So you're seeing other schools doing it. Not really to that extent. We can't get our hands on the same type of defensive lineman in high school that they can down there. The population is not as large of those type of players here as it is down in that SEC country.
Coach, going into this recruiting season, what was the main or the one area or position that you really wanted to focus your attention on?
Well, defensive line, the ends and the tackles, and we were able to have a great year at that position. We needed to pick up the offensive linemen. I think we ended up signing 4 or 5, and we needed to get those guys. And so what it comes down to is the big guys. There's so many skill players in this part of the country. But the big guys, they're the ones that are difficult to find, so we wanted to make sure we got those on both sides of the ball.
Do you see Childs and Webster maybe competing for playing time immediately if they get a red shirt? What's
You know, we've always played our freshman running backs. So they're going to play.
Mike, staff stability, we've heard for decades. The good programs have staff stability. Your staff has been fairly unstable during
Right.
your head coach. Guys leaving and taking guys with them, or guys leave for whatever reason, and yet you not only sustained, you've improved virtually every year. Why have you been able to keep a good program going and building with staff instability?
I think it's because our core values have stayed the same, and it does make it really difficult. When you lose 3 coaches during the middle of recruiting, it can affect your recruiting. The relationships that have been established are difficult to mend and move forward, the trust and all those things. But to answer your question, at the end of the day, we have to have values on what we are on offense, defense, special teams, and then how we want to handle our team and the substance to us and what we stand for. And there's going to be coaches come and go, but if that doesn't change, then the players understand the importance of kind of who we are, and we haven't changed those general principles. And then the last factor, which is probably the biggest, has been Rob Glass. And, you know, I've jokingly said this, but, you know, he's older than me, a lot older. If he ever retires, I'm in trouble. He takes our guys. He has them year-round. NCAA allows him to coach them, to teach them, to discipline them year-round, and he's the best there is. And he instills that discipline in them from the time they walk on this campus, and then when they show up with us, they're somewhat trained. And he's just the best there is, and so he's a huge factor in the stability of this program. Even though he doesn't draw up plays, the discipline and the toughness and the structure that he instills in them may be more important than any plays that we draw up.
On what you tell recruits concerning this offensive identity, for reasons out of your control last season, you sort of had to be flexible on your offensive identity, and you really had running the same offense, but 3 different ways depending on who was quarterbacking. Did that lead to any confusion or questions from recruits?
Not really, because like when JW was in, and in somebody's mind's a little more runner, he threw for 400 yards. And so the players that you're referring to that are our concern at a time that we're targeting are your wide receivers and your running backs. And at the end of the day, our statistics in those areas were as good, if not even better, than what they had been. And so we had examples of, okay, people consider JW more of a runner, and he still threw for this many yards. And then people would consider Wes a thrower, which he is, but we still rushed for this many yards. So the concept has stayed the same. And we'll have to get the group together this summer in August and decide who we have with the new guys, the skill guys that are in, and then what to fit them into the puzzle with what we have from last year, and Tracy Moore, and, you know, he's coming back, and then we decide what we're going to do on offense. And there could be some variation, and there will be, based on who's playing quarterback. And there could be more than one guy in a game, and that'll have to change a little bit because, you know, we all know that if Wes is in the game, we're not going to play the same way as if JW or Clint's in the game. Now, there is similarities with Clint and JW. And as you know, during the season, we found out that Clint's ability to run the football was probably better than what we all thought.
So I guess what you're saying is if you'd been recruiting a quarterback the last couple of months, it would have been a bigger deal, maybe?
No question. And really, for the most part, somebody would have had to have really strong ties to come here, right? We had 3 quarterbacks play, 2 of them were freshmen. One was a junior. They're all coming back. So it would have been hard to get one to come here that really fit what we needed, instead of saying, okay, I can go to a different school and I may at least get some reps for in the first couple of years. So Good?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.